For years, I've been lucky enough to travel the world, but I always return to Cornwall. This county is famous for rugged coastlines and sweeping beaches.
This is cool.
But Cornwall has so much more to offer.
These mines get almost a mile out to sea. This is a wonder of the world.
Now I want to show you what this place means to me.
They're like sweeties.
From its rich culture
I love these here.
to its ancient history.
Hello?
I talk to those who love this place.
This is where I feel at home.
And as you'd expect, I celebrate great Cornish food.
We take this in, they're more than happy.
Along the way, I hope to inspire you with my own dishes.
A sensational pud.
What I discover is that Cornwall is different to anywhere else in the world.
And it's that difference that I want to try and explain and to tell you what Cornwall means to me.
The border between Devon and Cornwall is over 1,000 years old. Defined by the River Tamar, few counties can claim to be separated in the way these two are. This boundary has brought about a friendly rivalry between the Cornish and Devonians, which exists to this day. Here, just a quarter of a mile separates Tor Point on the Cornish side from Plymouth in Devon. Linking the two is a rather unusual ferry service. The ferry controller for my crossing today is a proud Cornishman called Mike Bright.
Tor Point, Tamar. Just to let you know, we're going to proceed to Denport.
Copy that, Mike. Thank you, mate.
Okay, thanks.
Mike has been working on the ferries for 17 years.
Is that the brake down there, Mike?
No, that's what we call a dead man's pedal. So
Oh, right.
if I fall over or pass out or have an accident or whatever, as soon as I let go of that, the ferry would stop. So,
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, you're kind of correct. It is a brake, really. Yeah. There's a lot of satisfaction about getting people safely from A to B and getting them to work or on a holiday.
I suppose for me it's just the sort of, I don't know, when as soon as you get on a ferry, it's sort of you're going somewhere. It's not like going across a bridge.
There is that excitement element to it,
Yeah.
where you're not sat in your car and you're just toing and froing. People get out, they can have a walk about and look at the dockyard. Maybe if they're lucky, see a dolphin. Every day is different here. We carry 2 million cars a year.
2 million?
2 million, yeah. And approximately 3 million foot passengers.
That's quite something. You think
Yeah, it's quite a lot. This is the world's biggest and busiest chain crossing.
Really?
Yeah.
Mike runs one of the 3 ferries which operates all the year round. They're able to do this because they pull themselves across the river on a chain, so are unaffected by wind or tide.
Just tell me about the chains, because I just love seeing one come by and hearing that click as it goes through.
There are about 600 yards of chain on each side, and I believe it's about 24 tons per chain. So it's quite a lot of weight there.
How long does the chains last for then?
Approximately 5 years, I believe. You don't get many chain failures. Well, the chains are checked every day, 2 or 3 times a day. So,
And greased?
yeah, we have people greasing the tunnel mouths at the end, because obviously we got drums and rolls for the chain to go over and pass through.
Sorry, I know this is very boring, but I am a bit of a mechanical bent, and I really like stuff like how do you keep the chains running? Where does the grease come in? I was just thinking my grandson called Milo, he would love this because I'm seeing it through his eyes. marvellous, all this lovely clanky equipment. To me, those black chains have got a real Dickensian feel about them, you know, the way Dickens used to describe the sort of Thames, and the ropes, the chains, the hawsers, the oily swell, the sort of rotting boats and ships from all over the world going out along that long stretch of water. Fabulous. Same in here.
These modern chain ferries were introduced in 2004, but there's been a crossing here for over 200 years. On the Cornish side of the Tamar, I'm meeting historian Dr. Harry Bennett, who tells me how the link across the river came about.
At this stage, in the 1790s, we don't have railway connections. The road connections are very difficult because of the rivers, and there's a network which runs very well on that side all the way to London, and a very good network which runs all the way to Penzance that way. Your missing gap here is the River Tamar. You need to be able to get traffic across that. So the Tamar Ferry, as it's developed in the 1790s, is intended to sort of fill this missing link. Because just opposite us, we've got the largest naval dockyard in Europe slowly developing. That means there's a lot of people who want to come backwards and forwards across the Tamar. So that means you're going to be dealing with wagons, you're going to be dealing with horses, people, carriage and fours, large commercial loads, which you've got to go backwards and forwards, and of course, occasionally, it goes wrong.
So give us some sort of nice historical things that went wrong.
But in 1923, we have a particularly interesting incident. A travelling circus is going down into Cornwall, and they're actually trying to take across the Tamar elephants. One of them actually breaks loose, and she plunges over the back of the boat, and a little Asian element called Julia.
Julia.
Julia, yeah, which is rather a nice name. Fortunately, Julia is able to swim to the other side with the encouragement of a trainer and one or two local boatsmen, and they get her out of the water.
Well, I'm blowed.
It's hard enough for human beings to swim the River Tamar. For this little Asian element to do it is remarkable.
Well, I quite like a swim, Harry, and I just think this might be a bit much. Not just the distance, but also because of the tide. It would be, you'd have to be really, she would have been lucky, I guess.
Yes, she would. And indeed, quite a number of people as well that literally go over the side of the Tamar Ferry, either as a result of accident or perhaps drinking a little too much and making a little bit too merry. Absolutely.
Probably this Devon side, I'd guess.
I think it's more the Cornish side. They know how to have a good time in Cornwall.
Well, I can vouch for that. The Tamar has often been compared to a moat guarding Cornwall from the rest of Britain. Perhaps I'm over-romanticising it, but I think this is what attracts many to live here, including myself, who revel in the joy of being at the very end of England. They also come for Cornwall's wilderness, to places like Golitha Falls, where the River Foy tumbles off Bodmin Moor on its journey to the sea.
To realise from a personal point of view that one of the great things about making these programmes in Cornwall is I get to visit parts of Cornwall which I always meant to have gone to, like Golitha Falls, but probably would never have got round to going to in a whole lifetime.
Someone who's moved here and made Cornwall her home is the Queen of Comedy, Dawn French. I loved her in the sketch show French and Saunders. And when my 3 boys were growing up, our lives would be all the better for seeing her as the Reverend Geraldine Granger in The Vicar of Dibley.
Good girl. Good girl.
16 years ago, Dawn moved to Cornwall to start a new career as a writer.
That's such a nice walk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful here, isn't it? Have you been here before?
No, I haven't.
Ah.
Wonderful trees.
Yeah. I love it here because I love the light in here. I love how cool and fresh it always is. But it's an emotional place for me because my daughter used to live about 5 minutes up the road, and this is where we would meet to walk dogs. So we've sorted out the world on these walks, you know. We've cried and laughed and, you know, got out our pent-up everything on these walks. So it's, I feel very attached to it.
There's something really wonderful about these trees. It's like an enchanted wood, isn't it?
It is. Beech trees mostly.
Yes.
As a child, Dawn's father was in the RAF. Billeted from one posting to another, they eventually settled in the southwest, where she went to school in Plymouth and became an honorary Plymouthian, or Janner, as they're known in these parts.
I think when you're the kid of a services family, you move around a lot. So I've never quite felt home properly. But because my family are here, this is where I feel at home. Yeah, I love it.
I like the thought of you sitting in your house writing away,
yeah.
quiet, and does Cornwall come into that at all?
100% Cornwall has helped me to write. I mean, I did write a little bit before I moved down, but I write better now and have a routine of, you know, I walk my dog, I sit down, I do office hours, but my office, you know, lucky me, and I realise this, and I mustn't be too smug about it, bit smug, about the fact that I look out to sea from my desk. You know, there's fresh air, fresh sea air outside my door, and I take big gulps of it, and I breathe easier when I'm here. And you need to do that to kind of feed the oxygen to your brain so that you can write. And, you know, there was Du Maurier, and there's been all the other writers that, you know, have written in Cornwall. There is art in the air here. And so, you know, I borrow a bit of that. I just wanted to be in a space that I love. And then I moved to Cornwall. Then I got divorced. That's not a prerequisite of moving to Cornwall. But then I married a man from this part of the world. So now I feel even more entrenched in Cornwall, if you like. What I'm very aware of is that in Cornwall, you mustn't claim your right to be Cornish in any way. I'm very aware of that. And I still have people who accuse me of being a bit of an incomer. And in a way, I guess I am, because I've lived in lots of other places. What I do feel here is that my mum's mum was Cornish, Polperro, Menenia, round there. And her mum was Doddy Cross. So that part of my family, my mum's line, goes back to Cornwall. And some of the people in that part of the family built roads in Cornwall. So I feel okay. I've claimed a little bit of a right there.
You've upstaged me, Dawn, I must say. This is
But then the rest of my family are Janners from across the river. So
that's terrible if they're Janners.
You know, I'm feeling the right to say that I'm a Tamar girl.
Right.
That's pretty much what it is. You know, that river is a big divide, you know.
Well, it's such a great divide, isn't it?
It is.
Few counties have got such a sort of obvious
Yeah.
side.
But it's you know, when it comes to the football, there's no river, you know, because there's no football further down, really.
True.
Everybody has to go across the river. Suddenly, everyone's happy to be part of Plymouth. So I know it's a tricky
Argyle,
old
are you
line.
in Argyle?
Yes, I'm a Green Army.
So
Who are we? Green Army. Yes, I am, yes. Well, I think we went to the football throughout my childhood. So, you know, I have to say I was probably more interested in the pasties than the football. And the deal was you bought an Ivor Dudney's pasty outside the ground and you smuggled it in down your front. So I had a lot of pasty-shaped burns on my budding bosoms as a child. But the joy of eating your pasty while the football's going on.
What do you think? I mean, do you think there is a Cornish character? Could you put your finger on what makes...
Yeah, I think the really good thing about Cornwall is that it's a bit dark, and I think it's a bit spiky, you know, and you work hard to earn people's respect and you pay your dues. And I think that's okay. I don't mind that at all. It's not, you know, I love the dichotomy of cream and sky and sea and coves and giant big horizons and all those beautiful things, and then slightly spiky dark witches, moors, wind, you know, all of that stuff that's a bit edgier and a bit rougher. I like that. And, you know, we mustn't forget ever, Cornwall is a very poor ward. The centre of Cornwall has a really tough time. And Camborne, Redruth, you know, these are places that really suffer. So, you know, whilst we're around the coast and whilst we're in sort of fluffy areas, while we're in the woods even, you know, there are people that are having a tough time in Cornwall. However artisan and nicely fronted and nicely decorated anywhere becomes, and I'm a sucker for that, I love all that. I don't buy it as only that, ever. I always think there's something else going on here. You know, there are other people not living like this.
How do you see Cornwall shaping up in the next 10, 20 years?
I have always thought, and I think especially now, that Cornwall is a fertile place. And, you know, not only is it fertile in the very basic sense of it all, not only is it green and lush and beautiful, but, you know, this is a place for thinkers and doers. And if we are going to have a change, and if Cornwall's going to survive and everyone can share that wealth, we need new thinking and we need things to change, and we need people to plant their ideas here and make things happen in Cornwall. And there's no reason why it can't.
To hear Dawn's passion for Cornwall is so encouraging. Her belief in Cornwall as a place for change is something I often preach. And during my time here in the West Country, I've met many who know how much this county has to offer, especially when it comes to food. I like to call them food heroes. Those going out on a limb, pushing boundaries, exploring new opportunities. And during the research for this series, we found a man who is doing just that.
I'm on my way today to meet Seth Pascoe, who claims he's discovered a new superfood, and I'm not going to tell you what it is until we get there.
For the last 4 years, Seth has been quietly planting a small orchard of extraordinary plants.
Good afternoon, Rick.
Afternoon. Seth.
Welcome to Cornwall's first Seabuckthorn orchard.
Well, I've seen them on the cliffs, but I've never seen as many as that.
Seabuckthorn, or sea berry as it's sometimes known, is a shrub that grows wild along Britain's coastline.
I don't recall them being very juicy, so we'll see what these are like. Ow! I haven't even picked one.
The one big drawback of this bush is that it is very prickly, and hand picking like this is literally painfully slow.
Let me just tell you what they taste like.
You'll get like a real explosion first off.
They are incredibly sour, but I mean, without the sourness, you can see they're very nice. They've got a sort of slight tropical fruit, I would dare to say, like almost passion fruit taste about them.
Absolutely.
Not as intense, but
very sort of citrusy, aren't they?
Yeah. And what's in this?
They're renowned for being really high in vitamin C, sort of 10 times the amount of orange is sort of the commonly touted thing. But they've also got vitamin E, vitamin A. That's the vitamin A is obviously the bright orange colour. Omega oils, omega 3, 6, 7 and 9. So the sort of full spectrum of all the oils which you normally need from oily fish or macadamia nuts.
Is that the same oil as oily fish, the omega 3?
Yep.
So in fact, what you're almost suggesting, if you're a vegan, you could live on these and never have to have a supplementary pill in your life.
Potentially. Mother Nature's made this and it's synergistic, so rather than you popping various different supplements, this is a little ready-made package, really.
How would you cook with them?
Well, they're very versatile, actually. I mean, in savouries, such as with seafood or roast chicken, it's quite good with goat's cheese and bits and pieces like that. And then in desserts, sort of sorbets or possets.
If you make a sorbet with them, is it bright orange?
Yeah, absolutely. All the colour comes through, yeah.
That's brilliant. So how long would this orchard take to grow? I mean, how long has it been mature enough to produce fruit?
We planted this orchard about 3 or 4 years ago. This is our first sort of real harvest of any significance.
What would you get, how much sort of weight off a tree like this then?
Hopefully like 5 kilos per tree.
That's a lot.
And this tree may well do it.
Yeah. And how long would they go on for then?
The tree should last for 20 years.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a good crop, really.
Yeah, it should be climate versatile as well, because it's in the ground and should learn to adapt to all the sort of vagaries of the climate, whatever they might be. I've got some juice here if you'd like to try some juice.
Yeah, I'd love to. Is there any sugar in it? Because I would favour a little bit of sugar.
It's sugar-free, but what we've done, Rick, is
gosh.
we've blended it off with apple juice, so the apple juice sort of carries the sea berry juice and
does
just
it?
balances the flavour.
Is that just apple juice in there?
It is, apple juice and sea berry.
It doesn't taste sour at all.
So it's well balanced, isn't it?
That is very nice.
So exciting is his discovery, it's been given funding from the Nuffield Farming Scholarship, and his berries are now being used by food producers to flavour many things, including chocolate, tonic water and vodka.
I know they're native to Cornwall, but where did you come up with the idea then?
I came across these in Nepal. I was doing a trek to Everest Base Camp, and
As you do.
once we got up to sort of 4,000 metres, the altitude sickness started kicking in, and feeling pretty groggy, headaches, dizziness, the usual sort of things. The Sherpas came out with a juice, much the same colour as this, and said, drink this and it'll sort of sort you out. Brilliant. So next day I woke up and felt right as rain.
Really?
And wow, what is this stuff? And the sort of farmer bit kicked into action for me, and I was like, what is this plant? Where does it grow? And they said, oh, in Nepal, superfruit. And I learned it at Seabuckthorn, and I came home, researched it, and it turns out it grows in Cornwall.
Superfood it is.
Very much so.
I suppose I better give you a hand picking, but you know, they're your thorns.
They are, yeah. It's a labour of love. And
It is.
One year I cut all the thorns off to
Did you?
to see if it made a difference, and she grew all the thorns back the following year.
I
Bigger
bet.
ones, if anything.
Seth's berries have given me an idea for a simple dish, a variation of my Vietnamese orange duck recipe, but this time with a sea berry orange sauce. Sear 2 duck breasts on a medium heat. Cook them skin side down first for 4 to 5 minutes or until brown. Then the other side for 3 minutes. Drain off the excess fat and season as you go. Remove them from the heat, cover and let the meat rest for 10 minutes. Now for the sauce. Add 100 grams of buckthorn berries to a hot pan. Then pour in half a litre of orange juice. It is possible to buy frozen berries online, but if you can't get hold of them, add 100 millilitres of buckthorn berry juice instead. Bring to the boil and simmer for 5 minutes to soften the fruit.
I was just tasting this while I was reducing this down and cooking out the sea buckthorn berries, and I do think that it's a very lovely astringent flavour, but it goes particularly well with some other fruit, in this case oranges, but also I've tried it with apple juice as well. The thing is, it's the acidity is so lovely, but also the colour. I mean, look at that. So I'm just going to force the berries through. And this recipe is based on a Vietnamese braised duck with orange dish that was very, very popular when I did a series in Southeast Asia. And that was sort of slow braised duck. But I'm going to call this one Sea Buck Duck. I think that's quite a good name for it. So now for the other ingredients. Well, first of all, I'm going to peel a bit of ginger. I've only just picked up this technique of peeling ginger. Of course, I'm sure all of you know how to do it, but actually a spoon is the best way of peeling ginger. So in this pan, we're going to put a lot of lovely Asian ingredients. I'm not going to be too sort of special about chopping all this stuff up, just a fine chop. But just get a bit of garlic happening there as well. Now I'm going to put some spring onions in there too. Just the white of the spring onions. Of course, as we're talking Southeast Asia, a bit of lemongrass. And a good tip here with lemongrass is that if it doesn't come peeled, the outer leaves are a bit stringy, getting your teeth. Right, now a bit of chilli, not too much. Have to be a bit careful how much you put in, but note, as with me, I always leave the seeds in, so I am allowing the true heat of the chilli to be there in the dish. And finally, a couple of star anises. Just break those up a little bit into the pan. And now we're ready to fry. That's just looking a little bit dry. I'm just going to add a little bit of that duck fat back. Not too much, too overpowering. And now to add my juice. Now a little bit of fish sauce, about a teaspoon or so. Ooh, a bit more. And this is actually quite important. You need some sugar because it's very, very tart, that. It's about a teaspoon and a half of sugar. I think duck is particularly appropriate for a tart sauce because duck and pork, because there's so much fat in both, the tartness cuts through the fat in a very, very delicious and delightful way. So I'm just going to get the duck. Actually, this is perfectly cooked. All I need to do now is just reheat the duck in the sauce. I'm not going to cook it out because I think the pinkness there is perfection. So the last thing is just to add some green chops of some spring onions. I'm just going to let that wilt in the heat of the sauce. And now to serve it up.
A perfect complement to this dish are some spring greens, fried with spring onions, chopped garlic and ginger, and seasoned with soy sauce.
Now to try. This is the bit I like the best. How does it taste? It's lovely. I mean, I know I'm saying that myself, but it's not really my dish. It's a Vietnamese dish. I think what's so great about it is that duck cries out for acidity, and it's here in spadefuls. But also, what works for me about Southeast Asian cooking is they're not afraid of using sugar. And you have to use sugar with something like buckthorn berries because they're so sour. But the balance with the chili and the umami flavour of the fish sauce is just wonderful. It's so Moorish. Honestly, you'll love this. And I have to think now about Seth. Would he approve? I think 100%.
Join me next time as I continue my journey across the ancient land of Cornwall.
The lunar landscape is sensational. There's a sort of look of hauntedness.
It's always very warm.
And very tactile, isn't it? Most unctuous mulled wine you can imagine. Right, here we go. And you won't get eaten by sharks!